Hello friends, so welcome to this lecture on network security in Cosmos DB. So in this lecture we'll discuss about the IP firewall restrictions in case of Azure. So remember this diagram, we'll study about this particular part, network security using the IP firewall. See, by default all your Cosmos account, the databases which you'll provision are accessible from the internet, and we'll discuss about the authorization token concept in a moment. See, to secure your database in Azure Cosmos DB supports a secret based authorization model which uses the hash base, or we can say HMAC authentication code. And in addition to that, your authentication edition, Azure Cosmos DB supports the IP based access controls for your inbound firewall, to which we call it as IP firewall, using network security using the IP firewall. So if you implement the firewalls, you can configure for your Cosmos account to be accessible from, let's say, a single IP, or from a approved set of IP, or from this particular VNet. The CIDR you can mention, right? The access from Azure portal you can mention, and whatever the access to the Azure Cosmos DB, or the data stored in your Cosmos DBs from these approved set of machines and services, they will still require the caller to present a valid authorization token. See, what does it means is, so let's say if this is your Cosmos DB and you have implemented, let's say, allowed 10 IPs, that okay, they will be allowed to access your Cosmos DB database. So in that case, even though you have allowed the IPs using the IP firewall, but once they reach to the Cosmos DB, they still need to present that valid authorization token, that they are the right user, so that they can so that it can be proved that okay, they are having the required access to access your Cosmos DB account. So there are two controls implemented. So one is like, we are talking that okay, this is the first layer of defense, that okay, only these IPs are allowed. So it is not a blanket access to all these IPs. Once you have allowed, they have to present a valid authorization token. So that is why in the first line we said, by default it is accessible from the internet as long as the request is accompanied by the valid authorization token. So two kind of a security, it would be, always best to provide the IP restrictions, which all IPs will be accessing your Cosmos DB, and then the role-based access control we have, that who will be accessing. So I'll show you the example what I'm talking about. So if you'll see, this is the snapshot from the Microsoft. So you can see that the firewall and virtual network settings in case of your Cosmos DBs. So you can see, allow access from all network or selected network. So you can configure network security for your Azure Cosmos DB. You can allow the virtual networks, and then which all IPs will be accessible from the your Cosmos DB from the internet. You can mention a single IP or a CIDR range, and then exceptions, that okay, accept connections from within the public Azure data centers, or allow access from the Azure portal. So these are the different settings you can do, like adding the virtual network. So by default, when you provision a Cosmos DB count, so it is all network is selected. So you make sure that selected networks, we provide the restrictions, like the VNet, and if any public IP would be accessing. So all those things you can mention over here to basically secure your Cosmos DB. So this is it, friends. In this lecture we discuss about the network security using the IP firewall. So thank you for watching this lecture. Meet you in the next lecture.